Draft your LCS team and earn money. Alpha Draft.
From the release, I already said to my team, I will be main Kalista player. I will just play it, and I played it secretly on my Smurf. I played over 70 games. Till I actually played it in scrims. That's how bad I was on the Kalista. I was like so scared that I will not pull it off in scrims. So I played many solo queue games, and yeah, here I go. Basically, if you get enough stacks on any objective and you run the objective, it's free. You can combine it with smite from jungler. We usually do it with just free. 3, 2, 1, go. And we smite it. There's like really 1% that anyone can steal it, and it's really easy to control the objective this way.
Certainly confident words on that Kalista. He's definitely made it look pretty good, Deficio.
He's been the main carry for the Copenhagen Wolves and pulled off Kalista, Draven, both that look very good, so he deserves the praise.
Yeah, I think it definitely has earned it. Now, welcome back to the European LCS, guys. This is our final match coming up. The Copenhagen Wolves taking on SK Gaming. Let's take a look at those lineups. In the top lane for the Copenhagen Wolves, it will be Youngbuck, Airwax in his jungle, Soren, the mid lane, Freeze, that AD carry, Unlimited the support, and of course their coach, Dentist.
Yeah, and we just talked about how Freeze has been the main carry for the Copenhagen Wolves. He's joined together with Soren, to be honest, as like the backbone of the Wolves. They're always playing these late game scaling champions who can win the team fights as long as the team doesn't fall too far behind. Soren last week looked great on Cassiopeia and Kassadin, and obviously Freeze on the other hand pull out that Draven again. We saw his power, his old comfort pick. And honestly, I like how Copenhagen Wolves as a team is now set up, where you have the supports coming in from like Youngbuck Unlimited and obviously Airwax, and then you just have these two carries. You turn all the resources onto Freeze and Soren and make them basically win the game for you.
Yeah, and Unlimited's had quite a lot of experience with some really strong AD carries.
Yeah.
4 of those 5 top AD carries in Europe, they've come through the Copenhagen Wolves, and yeah, it's kind of the right way to say it. He's kind of the wingman.
Yeah, the thing is, so if you look at the best AD carries in terms of laning phase, who's always ahead in CS at 10 minutes on average, there are 4 AD carries. They are Woolite, who played on Copenhagen Wolves obviously in the summer split last year with Unlimited. We have Forgiven, of course, played with Unlimited as well in the spring split. Freeze, who's now playing with him, and obviously Reckless, who used to be a Copenhagen Wolves player while he was waiting for his birthday. He wanted to be 17, so he can get into the LCS and play for Fnatic. So all these 80 carries has played with Unlimited, and they've all done a great job in the laning phase. So he must have some magic power.
Well, hopefully that'll be enough for them in this game, because it's a tall order.
Yeah.
The undefeated SK Gaming. Let's take a look at that lineup, because that one is also quite impressive. In the top lane, it is Freddy122, the jungle Sven Skaren, mid laner Fox, AD carry, the only once killed Forgiven, and of course, the support end rated and their coach, Inner Flame.
Yeah, and now SK Gaming, we keep talking so highly of them because they just keep showing up in every single game they play. They beat every single team so far in the early game, either through lane swap or the standard lanes. They have fantastic players. I mean, look at that. On average, at 10 minutes as a team, they're 1,300 gold ahead. That's like a tower and some CS advantage. And it's every single game. There's no answer yet from any of the teams in Europe.
Yeah, they've never trailed at the 10-minute. I think even at the 20-minute mark in gold, they're able to find that gold where they need it. They're able to find some early game and mid-game spikes. And the Copenhagen Wolves have only been able to find success when they do play that out in the early game. So I think that's going to be very telling on this game.
Yeah, of course. The early game is going to mean so much. And another thing that's going to mean a lot is Freddy in the top lane for SK Gaming. We praise him a lot because, for me, he's the best top laner in Europe, doing Worlds as well. He's played 4 different champions. I was tweeting this earlier in the week. All 4 champions actually do well in a 1 versus 2 lane swap in terms of farming from range. So if you don't go and shut him down by diving him, they will pick up a lot of farm and get ahead of the other top laner, which is what Freddy has been doing in nearly every game.
Yeah, Freddy's been an absolute rock for his team, and the rest of SK have not really been slouching off either. Just massively big plays they get in situations where they're able to take full advantage, they're able to out-rotate, they're controlling the Dragons and the Barons still incredibly well. There just seem to be so few holes in that armor of SK Gaming, and even the couple of mistakes we've seen from them have been somewhat minor. Their warding maybe, a lot of people have criticized, but they're still not getting punished for it, and they even picked it up.
So Elements almost managed to punish SK last week, but then we talked about it so many times. The Gage coming in, failing in the jungle, SK won the game anyway. But that's basically been like the only problem for SK. The warding is not good enough. They will be punished at some point, but right now they are so good player for player, and their early game strategy through the lane swaps and how they move between the lanes to get farm and to get the towers, that it doesn't even matter because they get such a big goal lead early on that they win the fights anyway. And again, you mentioned it, Copenhagen Wolves tend to fall behind early and then have to claw their way back into the game, get to like the 30-40 minute mark before Soren and Freeze can really start winning these team fights. You can't afford to do that against SK Gaming.
Yeah, they definitely need to step it up very, very early on. I think I want to put a lot, especially in this case on Airwax, to try to get in a position where Soren, where Freeze can start getting ahead early. But the problem is, if they do standard lanes, well, it's going to be so rough against Forgiven, who's been playing it out safe, but he's also in the lane, still goes up, punishes you. I was talking to Kreppel a little bit backstage about how that's one of the most terrifying things to do playing against him. He'll just step up in your face, kill you instantly if you make a mistake. This guy's got the killer instincts.
He will contest every single CS, but why don't you use that information to your advantage? Take a 2v2 lane. Freeze and Unlimited has been one of the best dual lanes in basic farming. Freeze is ahead like 3 or 4 CS on average at 10 minutes compared to the other AD carry when they're standard lanes. Take that setup here. You know Forgiven is going to play aggressive. He's so greedy for kills for farm. Have your jungler come down and camp that bottom lane. Try and shut him down through camping him in a 2-on-2 laning phase. Don't go into this lane swap here where he actually gets free farm. Early on, he gets a BF sword, and then suddenly we're so far into the game that Sidestone gets completed by the supports, and you just completely ward up the bottom side of the map, and you're basically no longer able to gank him. So I actually want to see someone do standard lanes and just have your jungler camp Forgiven. I know he's very vocal about that in solo queue at least. Whenever the jungler's there, oh my god.
Yeah, but this is the thing. There's so many threats on this SK squad that if you do, it just seems like when you look at just pure numbers, obviously Forgiven is a really big highlight on his team. He has an amazing KDA just because he's only died the one time. But generally speaking, a lot of those early plays in lane happen outside of that bottom lane just because a lot of people know how to be safe, know to stay safe against that. But I agree. I think this is something that we've not seen any team really do successfully against SK. They've really hardly tried all that much. And I want to see what happens if they do spend a lot of time in that bot lane, if the jungler does at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that easy, obviously, to do.
No, it's not a simple, clear-cut solution.
As we make it sound, because you also have to respect Svenskeren, who's been the best jungler in Europe this split. He's just playing so well in every single game. He will be able to snowball one of the other lanes. If you have all your focus on the bottom lane, he's going to go mid lane, he's going to go top lane, and make sure SK gets a lead there, and then suddenly your tactic might backfire. I just feel like it could be a way to try and exploit SK, because you know Forgiven is so aggressive in the lane, where you can get a safe mid lane and a safe top laner, and try and just stay alive in the laning phase and avoid ganks. But it's tough.
Yeah.
Whenever you're playing against SK, there are so many things you have to do, and so few things you can actually pull off in the game itself.
Yeah, you kind of have to take a lot of these trade-offs, and this is the problem. There's so many strong points of the SK squad that where do you try to attack it? Where do you try to find that weakness? And there really doesn't seem to be much of one. I think Forgiven has definitely been hit up the least. So we'll see if that ends up being the strategy here for the Copenhagen Wolves. I definitely agree they have to go in early. They have to try to make plays. They have to try to get Soren and Freeze ahead in the game. Yeah. And I think it's going to start in Champ Select. We'll see when we get into that how it's going to play out for them. But you got to think, going into this, it's a David and Goliath story. These guys, they have a chance. They have some big highlights for them, and they've gotten into a much more comfortable position since the first couple of rocky weeks for them.
Yeah.
But this is a tall order. Again, SK Gaming.
It is.
Undefeated, still the only team in either LCS right now that have not dropped a game in the spring split going forward. We'll see if they can change it as we get into picks and bans right now. The Copenhagen Wolves versus SK.
And let's see, I think Azir should be banned against Freddy.
You called it.
As he is a little bit too good on this champion, especially in the lane swaps. We saw Elements actually leave it open and SK take it in the first rotation for Freddy on his side. So I like this ban from the Copenhagen Wolves. And often, against SK, you want to go for a few target bans, but it's so tough because every single player, except for Enrated, who has his own little champ pool in terms of supports, but every other player, they stick to what's so strong in the current meta. All these power picks can be locked in by SK.
And this is actually a really, really good ban to take away from Soren, the Cassiopeia. He had 2 monstrous games on it, and every other game, it was banned against him. So that trend continues now. The Graves is also banned too.
Okay.
Interesting that they spend that one against Forgiven.
So I think the reason they're gonna ban the Graves, again, could open up for that 2-2 laning we just talked about here before we got into Champ Select. Graves obviously being the best AD carry we have in the current meta in terms of laning. And one of the reasons these European AD carries love to play it so much, just dominate your lane. It also opens up a little bit more for the likes of Draven and Kalista, who would have been destroyed by Graves in the laning phase. So we could see Freeze fall back on one of those two champions.
This does leave a lot of the old power picks from previous weeks available though. Rek'Sai still up, Gnar still up. There's definitely a lot of powerful stuff and not a lot of target bans outside of that Cassiopeia and the Graves, of course. So, I mean, it's kind of a mix and match here. The Azir has kind of been banned generally, but of course Freddy did get it in that one performance really big. There's the Gnar. What does SK answer with, though?
A little bit surprised, actually, Copenhagen was banned Gnar, because he would have been one of those safe top laners he could have taken, due to his jump, obviously, and all around, despite Youngbuck not having the best performance on Gnar, you can still be so useful in team fights just by going full tank. So I'm actually a little bit surprised. I was expecting a potential first pick for the Wolves towards the Gnar, but they actually banned themselves here. But now, Nidalee again is left open.
They take it away from Sven Skaren.
Yeah,
it was
him.
definitely the biggest impact Nidalee we've seen so far.
Taking it away. Jarvan was banned already. Rek'Sai is still open, but we saw in the last game how Nidalee can control a Rek'Sai in the early game. There are two specific jungle picks that actually work really well against Nidalee, but I haven't seen them pull off in competitive play. Rengar and Kha'Zix. And the Kha'Zix has to evolve his Q at level 6, and then you can actually duel the Nidalee. So as long as you get to that level 6 point, you're gonna be just fine against her in a one-on-one. But up to that point, obviously, it's still in favor of the Nidalee.
We'll see what they do on the side of SK, taking their time as it ticks down. The Lissandra, however, be an interesting choice for Freddy. Honestly, I feel like Freddy can take any number of top laners and be completely fine. Fox, of course, could also take that, but I feel like they're going to go for something different here.
Well, the thing is, again, Freddy always prefers to get these ranged champions for himself, because then he secures himself in the SK lane swap, where he's always in that 1v2 situation. And also, you can get that claw early on the Lissandra and use it to escape a potential dive, because you get your level 2 from doing a camp. And we see actually Rengar coming into Nidalee, so that's why SK left it open. And Rengar has more damage in a one-on-one than people often expect. And also, you can catch her out now. Once you hit level 6, you can force these fights onto Nidalee, so she's not allowed to sit and poke with Spear, like we often see her do. You simply just force the fight onto her. Her biggest weakness is being locked down, because she's building full AP. She's very, very squishy. And when Lissandra and Rengar come in as the true answers to the Nidalee, then you know what's going to happen in the team fight. She's going to die instantly.
Yeah. Copenhagen Wolves are going to have to find an answer for that. Right now, they're looking at the Ahri. A lot of takeaways so far. This would be another one of those from Fox. But Soren, well, he's not played the Ahri yet. Of course, this is still patch 5.2. It's definitely a little bit scary right now. And the Kennen gets locked in too. So Youngbuck did have, I mean, they did get a win on this one, but he definitely didn't look as comfortable on that champion. And I feel like he did on Gnar and a couple others.
Yeah, his late game or teamfight presence wasn't really the best, but it is a safe laner. Same goes for Ahri in the mid lane from the Copenhagen Wolves. So far, they're sticking to our tactic. And also, they're saving the bottom lane picks. They're going to see one of them now from SK, maybe even both, the support and AD carry, so they can try and maybe pick around it. And they obviously want to see if it's going to be the Lucian again from Forgiven, like we normally see when Graves is banned. He goes for Lucian, where he can play somewhat of the same style, just slightly weaker in the laning phase. But his mid game is still fantastic, where he can dash around. And it's funny because he plays Lucian like as a hyper carry. Because
which is really hard to do.
He can just destroy in these team fights if you don't manage to lock him down. And there's no hard CC or like point and click engage CC from the Copenhagen Wolves. They're gonna need like Soren to land a charm, or the likes of Youngbuck to flash on to Forgiven and then stun him with his ulti. Otherwise, they won't be able to lock him down with this.
And the Fox LeBlanc, too, is an interesting pick. So what we get to see here now is two mid laners taking champions that the other has been playing a lot of previously. And I'm actually a little bit curious about the LeBlanc, especially since the DFG removal. It seems like it has been a little less popular.
Yeah, it has for sure. But whenever you ban Kassadin, you open up for this LeBlanc pick, so you have that direct counter gun, and also you could see the solo laners from the Copenhagen Wolves. It's still a safe pick in this mid lane. And into Ahri, if you get the early pressure, because you can dance around with your distortion, and Ahri can't really follow you as she doesn't have Spirit Rush before level 6, then you can do well in the lane as well.
We got the Callista.
We got the Callista again. So
I want to see what it pairs with here, because they're going to have to take their support at the end, and not a lot of tanks right now. As the timer ticks down, it looks like it is going to be the Annie. So the Copenhagen Wolves, this looks like we've got full-on aggression here.
So going for Annie here, this is purely for the laning phase, honestly, for the Copenhagen Wolves, and for that point-and-click stun onto Forgiven with her Q, obviously coming in this case, and you have this double range where you can proc the passive for Kalista, not the passive, the W, obviously, with it. But I want to see the Copenhagen Wolves. It's a very, very squishy comp. I mean, there's no tank at all. Middle East going full AP. We know Kennen. Yes, he's going to build an Outlast, but so what? Once that is gone, you're going to die. So SK Gaming has so many targets here they can choose to lock down with the Rengar Lissandra. And then again, you have the LeBlanc coming in, bursting down. Obviously, Forgiven is going to dash in there as well. So SK Gaming, as long as they get to start the team fight, the Copenhagen Wolves won't be able to do anything, because they're just going to die instantly as the fight starts.
They've got a lot of target lockdown, and if they add the Leona to this one, it gets even more difficult. But it looks like at the last moment they're going to switch it up. And the Lulu, I actually really like this, because they don't have a hard tank unless Svenskeren goes full tank Rengar. At this point, they add a little bit of that artificial tankiness to keep either Forgiven or Fox or Freddy alive.
And also, again, you get the speed up for the Rengar as well. And Lulu and Lucian together is a very hard counter for Kalista. In the laning phase, Copenhagen Wolves will have to lane swap this one. They shouldn't be able to handle Forgiven and Enrated in a 2-on-2 situation. And obviously, I mean, that's again a problem, because now you get into this lane swap where Youngbuck on a Kennen, you're good if you get to just sit back and farm 1 versus 2, but you're a very easy target to dive. It's not like a Rumble there with a Doran's shield and the shield for himself, the slows and everything. No, Kennen is a fairly squishy target to go for, and that could open up for SK Gaming if they want to. But typically, we see them always fast pushing in the lane swap with the Lulu and Lucian, Freddy in the 1 and 2 on his own. So we're going to have to see if it actually is going to be a swap. I would be very surprised to see Copenhagen Wolves take the 2 and 2 against Lulu Lucian, such a good early lane, into a Kalista who needs more time before she really starts racking up enough damage to do anything.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to make a lot more sense for them to go for trying to get their bottom lane ahead, maybe at the expense of the top. We'll see what happens there. Now, with the picks and bans in the book, so go ahead and tweet us at LOL Esports. Let us know who you think came out ahead. Use the hashtag CWWin or SKWin. We'll check on those results in a bit. But this is definitely going to be an interesting game for certain. I think the lane swap makes a lot of sense in this situation. We'll see how that does go.
Yeah, and if the Copenhagen Wolves, as the first team in Europe, can actually handle that lane swap, every other team is falling behind. We can talk about it if it ends up happening.
Yep.
We might see SK try and force a 2-on-2 lane instead. Forgiven maybe wants to beat Freeze a little bit and make sure he doesn't get an easy time on Kalista, because again, once you get some attack speed completed, maybe some AD from your first item, we saw Blade of the Ruined King earlier from Pinoy, because he was staying in the 1-on-1 against the Kassadin, then you become very hard to deal with. Honestly, we're going to have to see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely indeed. So, looking at this matchup, the SK Gaming bot lane, I want to see how they do in this particular situation. If they instigate the force of the 2v2, we'll see if they do it. The crowd is hyped. Here we are onto the Rift. And it looks like, straight out the gates, they're going for standard. And I feel like Copenhagen Wolves, you're right, they definitely have a lot on their plates to deal with this SK squad.
Yeah, again, SK early game has been fantastic this split. It was the main weakness for the team last year, but now obviously made 2 changes. Suddenly every single lane is actually able to carry on his own. We've seen Freddy carry many, many times from top lane.
He's really stepped up quite a lot, and
yeah,
you can grant that to Worlds experience, you grant that to just moving on up as a player, just developing a better style, if you will. But whatever the reason, SK Gaming, they become this unstoppable force in Europe, and a lot of people are giving them some serious respect and props right now.
So no deep wards coming in from any of the teams. Just staying around the river. SK already placed a lot of wards simply to see if anyone is crossing to the jungle, and we are going to see standard lanes.
Yeah, I can't help but thinking that this is a bit of an issue for the Copenhagen Wolves. As well as Freeze has been able to play, with Unlimited especially, this is a really, really rough bot lane. You talked about the matchup in particular, but against Forgiven and Enrated, who just don't seem to make mistakes, you got to really trust yourself.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see SK go in and try and stop Copenhagen Wolves from doing this level 1 camp, because you don't want to allow them to get that early level 2 and then take over the lane. And we actually see now Enrated and Forgiven moving straight in there, forcing Freeze and Unlimited to give up the crooks and go back down to the lane. So no early advantage, just a very standard laning phase now between the 280 carries.
A little surprised to see Enrated, but that's okay. Just throw a fireball into his face. Freeze is going to be perfectly fine farming it out here, but Forgiven fighting, as you mentioned, for every last bit of that CS. I think we should see this one go fairly standard to start. And SK, they're perfectly happy with taking just a normal laning phase, because they've been getting ahead every single time. Unrated, though, does take a bit of damage there. Returns back to Freeze.
Bit of a bad trade by Enrated here, but normally, I mean, not normally, Lulu is one of the supports with the best early damage, like level 1, level 2, level 3. And that's again why SK can play so aggressive and just go for these early trades, win them, get the level 2 for themselves, and suddenly they have quite a CS lead build up already at 3 minutes. Early ward coming in. Remember, Nidalee, fantastic early damage. She just needs some CC in the lane to set up her ganks. That's going to come from Unlimited in this case. I want to see Airwax try and put some focus on this bottom lane.
I think he's definitely going to have to, and you know, we could talk about it to death how Nidalee needs to make some plays early game. Kikis last game was able to do it in the opposing jungle, but this time you do see Airwax trying the same thing, actually pinging it out over by the blue. He does get spotted.
Yeah, Svenskeren made a very good call here and actually smiting the wolf.
Oh, Soren.
Setting up Soren. A little damage.
A little low, yeah. Fox doesn't quite have the damage at level 3, but the Ignite is used. The Flash as well. Oh, his health bar is just going to the lowest it can without him being taken down. Trading summoners in that mid lane.
Yeah, so a very aggressive start in the mid lane here, using the distortion, the extra mobility to force these fights onto Soren. He's going to lose a lot of CS because he's actually pushing towards SK as well. So now they can just freeze it and sit back and farm, get a small level advantage. And I really like how Svenskeren actually smited the wolf, expecting Airwax to come in and invade him. Oh, whoa, this one-on-one here.
Yeah, it's a cat fight. Airwax, can he get the damage on Svenskeren? Tries to predict the way he's going to go. Flash burned. Airwax still in hot pursuit, uses his own, and that's first blood. The Nidalee comes out on top.
Again, their early game for Nidalee against any jungler in the game is going to go so heavily in favor of her when she gets to jump on you, like it happened right here from Airwax to Ringa. He wants to hit level 6, and then he can actually start making some plays. But early on, Airwax, despite being spotted, he stayed in there, he walked around, and gets that one kill onto Svenskeren. Nidalee is such a pain to deal with early on.
Yeah, especially once you've been able to pick up a bit of damage, and the steal away from the blue buff is going to make Fox's lane a little bit more annoying as well. Book holding his own against Freddy up in the top lane. He has taken a bit of damage, and as you mentioned, a very, very squishy Kennen. It's going to be hard to deal with, but
Even
right now,
yeah,
Svenskeren won't really have too much time to go up top in this early game, though, so I think he can play fairly safely for now.
Yeah, Sven doesn't want to make any plays early on here, but now the bottom lane on Unrated.
Suddenly, you've got a little bit more damage there. Airwax takes more than he bargained for, and Rated stays safe for the time being. But they still have to be very careful for Forgiven eating a couple Callista Spears.
And suddenly, just because we had Airwax invading into the jungle of SK, killing Svenskeren, that actually forced Forgiven and Enrated to stop applying pressure on the bottom lane and back away, give up a lot of CS for Freeze, and now Flash being forced by the Copenhagen Wolves, ganking Enrated and Forgiven in his bottom lane. So early on, we see this focus on the bottom side of the map from the Nidalee, and also why the Copenhagen Wolves took the 2-on-2 lane, planning on camping Forgiven and Enrated.
Yeah, and Freeze has actually built up a CS lead here over Forgiven. That's not something that happens quite often. Soren here living on the edge of danger. as Svenskeren was hanging out in that brush, decides it's not quite worth his time, heads back into the jungle.
This is the first time we really see Forgiven fall behind in CS. Obviously the guy, again, he's only died once. It's an insane KDA. And if he managed to win 2 more games now, 8-0 with SK, they're chasing that 9 winning streak record. The Fnaticast, that will play them next week. Actually 4 if they manage to win the 2 games this week here. And we're going to have to see what Forgiven's KDA is going to be. If he just refuses to die again. But for now, it's not about him. It's about Airwax jumping around on this Nidalee, making plays, getting the first, but not even sure why Svenskeren actually walked into the river, knowing that Airwax was nearby. No bush for Svenskeren to use to jump onto him. And also just lining up for Airwax to land the first spear and win the one-on-one.
Pinging it out, too. They know that Airwax is not going to give him a lot of breathing room. And this is kind of like giving Svenskeren a taste of his own medicine. He's usually the one involved in the counter jungle game.
Yeah, the first time we really see SK being put out of the comfort zone very early. See if the Copenhagen Wolves can keep it up.
Well, 31% of the fans do believe that that is the case. We'll see if that does happen. Still the fan vote trending in favor of SK Gaming with good reason. But Copenhagen Wolves holding on to a slim lead in the start of this game.
Good deep ward though being placed by OX. The pink ward here, right next to the mid turret, is very smart.
Oh, the flash! They're going to find Forgiven! Oh my goodness! He's burning, but he's got a potion. His KDA will remain intact for now.
And he's forced back to base, so Freeze again can push in this wave here, deny everything from Forgiven. Just make sure Enred is not able to freeze it. And then you're looking very, very good for the Copenhagen Wolves. Already has that pickaxe completed. The first item on Kalista is always so important. You want the ratio here on the rend, obviously, to scale up with the first 80 items picking up. And Copenhagen Wolves, all in all, except for this top lane, is looking good. But Freddy has been able to dominate it completely. And Jumbok starting boots obviously leaves him without any combat stats at level 1. I think he did it, however, just to try and dance in and out of the queue coming in from Freddy, but not really paid off for him.
Yeah, that mid lane, a little bit of trade of damage, but meanwhile, Airwax and Unlimited gonna go ahead and start off this Dragon 8.5 minutes in. They're actually gonna peel away from it. Airwax thinks he can take it on solo, as they need a little bit more help in that bottom side. Should be able to finish that off, just a smite, and he gets the first Dragon.
Taking full control of the early game from Airwax with the Nidalee, first pick by the Copenhagen Wolves.
SK doesn't give up a lot of those too. That was complete oversight on their part. And honestly, Sven has been in some trouble here. Not been able to do a whole lot for his team. Freeze now. They're going to drop the Tibbers. Look for Forgiven. He's big. He's got the damage. Yeah, Freeze is incredibly low. In comes Svenskeren. Forgiven does go down, however. They'll find the revenge. But it's an AD for support, Deficio.
Yeah, again, the Copenhagen Wolves, they're looking for these fights. Forgiven tries to make a trade. Tibbers in his face instantly from Unlimited. And then Svenskeren making sure they can trade 1-for-1. But tower now down. Freddy has had full control of this top lane. And now Outlaws is going to be the first item for Jumbok. So that doesn't help him in the lane at all. You can't use that arm guard against Alessandra, but he needs that early team fighting presence through the Outlaws.
Yeah, it does seem that every lane but the top has been for the Copenhagen Wolves right now. And that includes the jungle. Airwax has had some serious control over it. Svenskeren may have been able to wrestle a kill back for the bot lane, but with Forgiven already down, Copenhagen Wolves really understand the priorities that they have to have here.
Love the way they played the early game. 2v2 lane, played it aggressive against SK. Airwax ganking, getting a kill on Sven as well, applying all the pressure on the bottom lane. Really, really well played by the Wolves so far. Still behind in goal because of Freddy and the top lane.
He has played quite well in the top island for now. Fox should be able to pick up this blue buff. He was denied it the last time, and they are pinging out. They know exactly where Airwax is, but it's going to cost them a pink ward all the same. Fox says that's completely worth it. I'm going to go ahead and get myself a blue.
Airwax is a level ahead, and he has a lot more farm as well than Svenskeren on this Rengar. He just needs to keep the pressure up. Otherwise, once we get to these team fights, with Alessandra this far ahead and the Rengar jumping in.
Yeah, and Freddy, speaking of jumping in, a little premature there. Soren's going to be able...
Just didn't get in range.
Spirit Rush away. You're right. It was very close, though. SK definitely trying to make some plays and shut off the Copenhagen Wolves before they start rolling forward.
And again, that's going to be the thing in these team fights. With Rengar and Lissandra diving in, You can lock down the Nidalee or the Ahri so easy. Kalista as well. I mean, there's so many squishy targets, as we said in Champ Select, that SK Gaming can aim for in these fights. But the engage is going to be so important, because once the ulti from a Lissandra and from a Rengar is gone, they won't offer too much. I mean, yeah, you still have some crowd control coming in, but that's about it. You won't be able to burst down a target. So SK, they cannot afford to fail their engage. It's actually a bit of a reverse from when they played Elements. And they had the Lissandra Rengar combination. We saw what happens once they actually failed the engage.
And now Airwax is hanging down in the bottom lane, seeing if he can make a play. But they're playing so carefully. You've already lost Forgiven once, but they're going to look for another one. The Tibbers is down. He dashes away. Wild Growth forced. And an ult for an ult, but here comes Sven Skaren. Can they get the return damage? They know it. Teleport. They're going to go all into this one. Flash the bola. Can you get away? Wait a minute. Freeze taken incredibly low by this one. Sven Skaren a little bit low. Here comes Young Buck. Freeze is going to pick up Sven Skaren. They're looking for Freddy now. Frozen 2 flashing away. Double kill over to Freddy 1-2-2. Can they find Young Buck for even more? He's burning down as Fox picks up Soren in the jungle in all the craziness.
Not over yet.
No, it's not. Here comes Fox dashing in. Double kill on the LeBlanc. Unlimited finds himself without any friends. Even the Tibbers is down. And down goes again Unlimited. Fox picking up the triple. That's an ace at 12.5.
Yeah, suddenly SK Gaming just turning it on here. Let's just see the one-on-one kill first. No ult actually being used from the LeBlanc. Just chasing after. Son ends up dying. And meanwhile, of course, in the bottom lane, we had that counter gank coming from Svensson on Rengar. Perfect position for him, the perfect situation for Rengar as well to be in. Teleport from Freddy, cleaning up a few kills, and because again the top lane was winning from SK, mid lane was doing just fine on his own as well. Sven has been able to put all his focus on Forgiven and his bottom lane, and he can also flash the Grum.
You know, it looked great for the Copenhagen Wolves for just a moment, but when something like that happens, that is SK just flexing their muscles. A triple kill for Fox, a double kill for Freddy. Maybe the gold's not Unforgiven this time, but that's just fine.
That is perfectly fine. I mean, we know the rest of SK can carry games as well. And again, this is Copenhagen Wolves putting all the focus on their bottom lane. They went all in for Forgiven. He dashed back to his own turret, and suddenly they were exposed to the Rengar, to the Lissandra TP, and that's where they got punished. So SK, despite having trouble in the bottom lane, every other lane has done just fine, and Sven has actually been able to be part of some very important counter ganks.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wait in the brush.
Stealing candy from a child.
Oh. Or murder.
Or that too.
Yeah, that's without a DFG, by the way.
You don't need no DFG here.
That's totally fine. Freddy gonna push in this top side again. Young Buck, not much he can do about this one, just slowly pushed back. Now Forgiven and Rated have moved. Oh, that spear threads the needle. I don't think he expected that one, but there's no way they can follow through on it. All the same, SK Gaming, they really turned around that early lead for Copenhagen Wolves.
Yeah.
They've shoved it in quite well. They've got 2 towers out of, well, they had the tower solo in the top. They got the one in the bottom. They were able to pick a lot of kills. The Dragon's live. I don't think they'll be giving up another one for free like that.
No, they have no reason to give up any Dragons. Already reach a very strong point on both Lissandra and LeBlanc. Only Forgiven trailing behind a little bit, but if you compare his items to Freeze, it's not even a problem for SK Gaming. He's actually dead even in terms of items there. So SK have no reason to give up another Dragon. And Sven already. This pink ward actually just spotted him. Has been there for a long time. It was placed by Airwax, I believe, after he got that first block.
Yeah, it's going to give away the fact that this Dragon's going to get started. But Copenhagen Wolves, well, baited at the very least. They're not falling for him.
They won't. They won't. Yeah,
It should be a Dragon over at SK Gaming.
So no reason to take this fight for the Copenhagen Wolves, especially not when you give up the Dragon area, so you allow the pink wards to come down from SK. Just have to give it up. Try and get something else when. That's exactly what they're doing, with Young Buck and Unlimited being on this top lane. With a massive minion wave as well. Should be a tower for Copenhagen Wolves, trading it for the Dragon.
Yeah, Freddy, though, he's going to be in some trouble. Wanders into a death rush of his own. However, throws down the Frozen Tomb, flashing away. Young Buck can't quite find enough damage. Airwax trying to finish the job, but the Wild Growth means he stayed alive, and Copenhagen Wolves overcommit to that one.
Svenski
Not the
again.
first for yet, but Svenskeren looking for two. It's actually going to go over to Unrated with a little help from the Glitter Lance.
And again, we see why this Rengar pick, once you get your level 6, is just so good because you know Nidalee is going to keep looking for plays, and Rengar is one of the best junglers at actually counter-ganking, and he's just there every single time. First, it's onto Freddy, ults himself, and Reddit is running. Ulti again, Freddy's staying alive, and now the Copenhagen Wolves have to try and back away, but look, Sven already popped his ulti. He's going to come in, get 2 kills more for SK, and the Dragon obviously being picked up from before. The Wolves, they are trying to make the early plays, but SK are reading them like a book.
Well, and I think I know the ending to that particular story, Deficio. Right now, SK Gaming started to build the lead. They've got the Dragon back in their pockets, as you mentioned, 1-1 on that scoreboard. But the gold really starts to tell the difference. And typically, we've seen SK win. Forgiven has just been this massive CSing monster. This game, it's not quite the same. But with all the focus that the Wolves have put on them, they've neglected everywhere else on the map, and the rest of SK have been able to shine.
That is the scary part. Yeah. Your 80 carry can get shut down in the laning phase, yet you can still get so far ahead just through your jungler, mid laner, and your top laner combined. SK Gaming really showing up here. Trying to go back to this 1-3-1 we often see from them, especially once they win the early game. Because they are so good, they can take these one-on-one fights and also use all the information by pushing the minion waves so far up towards the enemy towers. So again, you can see the entire lane, in the mid lane, in the top lane, in the bottom lane. And use that instead of deep wards. Trying to see, okay, where is the Copenhagen Wolves? Are they farming at their own turret? Okay, we know the Ahri is now in the bottom lane. Let's try and make a play in the mid lane instead. But now though, Unrated, we got a little bit.
They got the stun off, they got the damage. Svenskeren pushed away by Freeze and Airwax. But for right now, SK still looking quite hot, able to push in 1-3-1. They're meeting the rest of their lane opponents head-on, albeit in a few different places. Down at the bottom, it's a bit tense between Fox and Soren. Spear's not going to connect. And definitely looking a little rough here.
Oh, Freeze actually jumped in to forgive him. Oh,
yeah, backs away. There's the calling.
Tricky.
Unlimited's going to intercept most of the shots here. It's a slow siege.
Yeah, and it's not even about this mid lane for SK Gaming. It's about the 2 side lanes where they are so much stronger. LeBlanc and Lissandra, that's the one. Or the 2 lanes they want to win in.
Soren's left the bottom.
Case, yeah.
Fox
trying to make a play, but look at his mid turret. And look at the difference in top laners here. You have arm guards and boots for Youngbuck. And actually a Dawn Shield he picked up later. He started boots in this game. And obviously Freddy Ormo sitting on his second item completed in the Hourglass. He's going to be able to take this tower if he gets enough time in this one-on-one. And that's why SK is just trying to spread out Copenhagen Wolves on the map and slowly poke away on every single tower, get more global gold, extend your lead.
Yeah, the pause coming in here. Gets a chance to reset. 19 minutes, of course, is the score line, or the timeline rather, and it looks like it is peripheral issue for Unlimited right now. So as we try to get that one sorted here, Deficio, it's a serious lead right now for SK Gaming. There's still a chance for the Wolves to kind of come back into this to get rolling, but the problem is they've not really been able to find any more picks. They've not been able to find any objectives. And it seems like SK, they just push them the way they want. They just go back to the lane phase, basically.
The Wolves kept looking for the picks, which simply meant that Svenskeren could counter-gank them. And that's what happened. In the last few fights we have seen is the Copenhagen Wolves starting it, counter-gank from Svenskeren. We saw the one teleport as well from Freddy. And that's just been SK Gaming really reading where the Copenhagen Wolves want to apply the pressure. And obviously we saw the bottom lane camp. We talked about it before the game. It happened, but it didn't work out. It did in the start, but now they're just falling behind due to some fights in the bottom lane. And I mean, for SK, no reason to stop doing what you're doing now. Just keep pressuring down every single lane in a 1-3-1. You're going to get those towers anyway, and you're also just waiting for Dragon to spawn.
Yeah, and wash, rinse, repeat. They're going to be able to keep on doing it. So we get back into the game here. Everything is just about reset, but N-rated. Getting chased away. Fox is there as well. Going to find Unlimited, and there he goes. Unstoppable is the word.
Yeah, that was very, very well played. Notice how he actually flashed behind the minion.
He almost does it again.
Yeah, flashed behind the minion so he could land that chain and manage to get the kill on Unlimited.
Freddy,
now, boom.
Yeah, no, you can't get anywhere near this team. The amount of burst is just absolutely ridiculous on this SK squad. And they own the Copenhagen jungle right now.
They do. And again, we see it. They push down the 2 side lanes and then they just move into the mid lane. So they go for dive. or they can stay and take the tower. There's so many options for them. So little counterplay for the Copenhagen Wolves because every lane is being pressured and then the dive onto the mid lane. They tried again to go aggressive and get a kill. In the end, LeBlanc picks up another one.
Yeah.
It's beautiful again. Flashing past the minion, so you got that chain to proc the sigil obviously and get the kill.
Oh, Fox though is going to have to get out as fast as he can. There is going to be the distortion away, dodges the spear. And you know, a big thing here for Fox, as great as he's played on a number of champions, we've not seen his LeBlanc this split. 5-0. Now that is a hell of a statement to make.
Yeah, again, especially because this was the game where we had standard lanes. We got to really see what the soul laners from SK could do. They could do a lot. Completely destroying the lane counterparts.
It isn't all about forgiveness.
Top lane was destroyed, the mid lane was just in favor of the LeBlanc here over the Ahri. And they've just been using it so well. Dragon spawn in 30 seconds. That will be the movement speed buff for SK. And they should set up for another one. Outlast is completed for Youngbuck. But Airwax is actually going more like Bruiser in Italy, which is going to take even longer for him to kind of stack up and be useful in a fight. If he just gets an Iceborne Gauntlet, I mean, he's not going to do anything into double AP from SK. So actually what went for just tank Italy in this case, the Frozen Heart.
It's a bit curious.
Again, against a double AP pump.
Yeah, that
Yeah, not a fan of that one at all.
He's definitely thinking about the late game, but this is the problem. The Wolves have not really been able to pull it out against teams that are this proactive, even though they've been able to outlast some opponents. I don't think that kind of trick is going to work on SK Gaming. And when you're building armor against double AP, you're kind of going about it the wrong way.
Yeah, especially again, he wanted to be the tank in Italy. So again, he's getting the cooldown reduction, but that's about it. I mean, he's going to be extremely easy for SK to burst if he ever jumps in. So I'm not a fan of Airwax. I'm a fan of Airwax, just not the way he's building right now. Made that very clear.
I think you've definitely made the point there.
He is a Copenhagen Wolves player after all.
I think SK Gaming, do like to see you repping the whole team there, have gotten themselves another dragon. They're still taking away jungle here from Copenhagen Wolves. And at this point, this is where you start to see it come undone for a lot of these teams. It's not that they are all playing poorly against SK Gaming. When they're on a roll like this, though, it's just so hard to stop them. 5K up in the bank. A lot of the soul lane stepped up. Freddy takes a little bit of damage as Youngbuck steps out of the brushes, but it's kind of not what's typically been happening up there, and even in any of these other lanes. Fox now looking to chase down Soren. Backs away.
Backs away. Doesn't want to face check him there. Risk getting charmed in his face. But again for SK, this is what we so often see when they win the early game. They split up in this 1-3-1 and don't really try and finish too early. It's more they know they have the dragon advantage. They get every single dragon except for the first one in this game here. And otherwise they just push on the lanes and they go for a dive somewhere or just take a tower one-on-one. So they played fairly safe in this case. No real risky moves coming in from SK. And that's just going to make it harder for Copenhagen Wolves to try and look for that one mistake they can punish. So far, they've been the team to be aggressive, the team to be punished.
Copenhagen Wolves definitely have to get something together here. They're trying to keep SK out of their jungle. They're trying to find a place to make a play. But the problem is SK, they're just so mobile. They're moving around so fast. They collapse on you. They get the 100-0. Fox alone is terrifying right now. Airwax is going to chase him away from his pink ward. They're just trying to keep the vision game up so that SK can't sneak up on him. But even that's getting difficult to do.
Yeah, they're trying to deny some vision, but not really placing the wards against themselves. They don't play around the wards at all for SK. It's just minions, whatever information they give you, and then knowing you are stronger whenever you are roaming around, and you can face check an Ahri with the likes of the LeBlanc as long as you actually can react in time to dodge the charm, and then suddenly you might even be able to turn around because you're so far ahead. And obviously, Freddy now finally got that tower one-on-one. He's been so far ahead of Youngbuck entire game long.
Yeah, he's pushed this lane in about as far as he really needs to here. And you can see the Wolves fighting just to grab, well, their own Wolves, but it gets smited down. It's SK just flexing those muscles once again. And the Copenhagen Wolves are straining under the pressure of this team.
We're gonna have to see what happens when we actually get a full-blown team fight. Because with SK controlling all the lanes, they should be able to get the engage they want. And then blow up one of these squishy targets and win it.
I think the Wolves are afraid to fight in this situation.
Oh, they should be.
I mean, yeah, there's
They should
really
be.
no reason they would want to take the engage. And SK, you know, they're zoning out.
There's the Baron
Getting
here.
right up, ready for this Baron. Yeah, 3 members. Look at the damage they're able to put out to it at 25 minutes.
Yeah, and you're keeping now LeBlanc and Lissandra as the 2 scouts. Sit ready here. If anyone walks in towards them, they can just blow them up, and then you get a free Baron for SK Gaming 25 minutes into the game.
You just take the Baron right there anyway, so no reaction, no response from the Copenhagen Wolves. They are going to try and clear away. They have to know that one happened, though.
Yeah, so now we have seen again SK so many times push up a wave and then walk straight into the jungle without having any wards placed. That's going to be the way for Copenhagen Wolves to get back in this game here. Try and set up a trap in your own jungle. Wait for Freddy to walk in maybe from the top lane, and you get a kill onto him. You delay the game a little bit, at least, and you get some gold for yourself. And then you want to try and go now towards these late game fights because you can't do anything in the mid game. You're falling way too far behind.
It's going to be so hard. Yeah, like you said, obviously they can't take a straight fight. Even if they try to bait something, wait for SK to wander in and face check the jungle, it's so difficult even to pick off these targets because look what you're going to have to deal with. Forgiven, yeah, he died this game, but he's been staying really safe. And Rated is there. He's got the wild growth. He can pretty much save just about any target that gets popped. You can't catch Fox. You can't catch Freddy. He's got Azania's Hourglass. He's got his ultimate up. Maybe you can catch Sven Skaren, but how much is that really going to do for you? A tanky Rengar.
Yeah, and he's not even going to be the target to walk in and be caught out. It's going to be these 2 soul laners who's been walking around. But actually, very early teleport coming in from Freddy because he just started the push. Or sorry, the wave was already pushing in the top lane. Now they just want to go 5 versus 5 down here. Might even be able to dive. I mean, they are strong enough to do it.
Yep. Siege commences.
There we
Fox
go.
tries to push him off. Freddy thinks about going in with the claw. Not quite enough. They pushed it back for now.
Exactly. All Freddy did right here was zone away Copenhagen Wolves from the tower. So Forgiven could actually get a lot of damage onto it. So by putting the claw behind it, he forced the Wolves to back away. Easy damage. And Forgiven.
Oh, yep. He jumps a little forward. They don't have enough damage to do much more than scratch. The surface, here comes the culling. Airwalks jumps out.
Freeze is no flash now, remember.
Oh, but Unlimited. Oh, he takes a minute and drops the Tibbers. However, here they go immediately. Jumping on Airwalks flow. Everyone on the Wolves. Here comes Sven Skaren. They're turning around trying to find Youngbuck a pair of Zania's Hourglass. But that is going to be Youngbuck going down. Unlimited soon to follow. SK have lost nobody. They've taken 2. And that was quick.
And Unlimited, he actually flashed in. And the target he decided to ult was the only target with a cleanse in the QSS from Forgiven. So the engage didn't work for him, and then we just saw SK instantly respond. Freddy dived onto the back line. Teamfight won by the Copenhagen Wolves and top it up. Notice again here, Unlimited actually flashes in, and he's like looking for a target. He even stopped after the flash. Forgiven has already picked up a fairly early QSS. I'm not sure why he's going to be the target. And notice Freddy back line. Freeze gets locked up. He can't do any damage now. And SK Gaming, despite fighting under the turret, or close to the turret, can't take 2 kills for nothing.
Yeah, it was really strange target prioritization. They've done so well in the laning phase in that regard, but this time they easily lose 2. They give up that dragon, they give up the tower. SK's grabbing everything. 3 dragons to 1 now, it's 28 minutes in. And the Copenhagen Wolves, you know, we've seen them last long, but at the rate this game is going, it doesn't look like that trend will continue.
No, SK won't allow them to go full late game anymore, but Copenhagen Wolves did the only thing they could do. You have to try and engage onto a Rengar so he can't use his ulti. You want to engage, maybe try and lock down Alessandra so she can't dive your AD carry either. So they made the right call in engaging, not just waiting for SK to slowly poke them out or dive them. But going for Forgiven was not the right call due to his QSS.
Yeah, it is a little bit strange to be prioritizing that when he had a chance to maybe drop it on Fox. Really good splitting, by the way, from SK in that situation. They forced Unlimited, once he flashed, to pick a single target effectively for the Tibbers. And in that kind of situation, you got to think that almost wastes that spell.
Yeah, and I'm really not sure why Unlimited is building tank in this case here. If you want to go tank in that case, you should go for Locket, but you really need a Mikhails as well against the likes of Alessandra. So Freeze won't just get blown up or whatever target Freddy decided to ulti. Because whoever, again, we talk about how squishy the Copenhagen Wolves are. If you get locked down, you're going to die unless there's a cleanse coming in. So I'm not really agreeing on the build from Unlimited. And obviously, we talked about Airworks earlier with that Frozen Heart. It's not really doing anything for him at all. You should have gone Locket against double AP. They are the Fed members. And Lucian as well is actually one of those AD carries who, while attack speed is great for him, he can actually survive without it. Because he's just going to rely on getting more abilities off and just have his passive procs instead of the pure standard auto attack we see. So really that Frozen Heart is not doing anything.
Yeah, SK Gaming taking full advantage of the fact as well. So they push around, gonna keep prodding and seeing if they can catch the Wolves off guard. Likewise, Wolves are in their own jungle waiting for a little bit overstepping of their bounds. Here come Enrated and Fox.
Go hide in that bush and wrap now. Copenhagen was okay.
That's what they're doing.
Right there. You need Unlimited as well. He shouldn't have shown himself on the creeps if you want to try and set up a trap. But it seems for now they're not doing it. They're waiting for SK to actually group up. Like before. Maybe try a new engage. Remember Unlimited can get thrown in by Freeze and then he can tip us. A bit slower though than flashing in.
Never really seen a Fates call this game too. I mean, that combo can work, but again, it's really difficult for Unlimited to get the tippers off on multiple members because of how well SK have been splitting.
It's not ideal either, having to throw in an any.
Yeah, you got one
phase,
chance
so.
at that, and then, yeah, I mean, you might want to grab him out. Maybe flash in, drop the tippers, jump out, but they haven't executed that. That's the problem.
It was
SK
picked for the
Gaming
laning phase.
Yeah, SK Gaming have been able to really just play the win conditions so much better. Airwalk's now going to try to collapse around the side on Freddy, but there's no one else here. And I don't think he wants to take that 1v1. You're 3 levels down.
And you're full tank. So not really a lot of damage being offered by Airwax on Italy. And it's going to have to wait and see. SK is waiting for this Baron. They want to play it really safe. Make sure they have all the buffs they need before they push down again. It's not the most exciting game just because SK have been so far ahead. From that counter gank in the bottom lane,
Oh, yeah.
it's just been really one-sided, and they always play this very slow style where they make sure to take all the dragons, take all the Baron bugs, and take all your outer turrets before they finish you. So they don't want to risk anything. They played really, really safe. And that's again one of the reasons they're undefeated.
Absolutely. And it's the fact that they don't just sit back and let the game get dictated to them. They say, okay, you make the first move, and then immediately counter-strike, immediately go in and punish every little thing you do. And all of their picks have been off the back of, oh, what, you made a mistake? Okay, cool, we're going to get 2 kills, we're going to get a dragon, and then we're going to go right back to doing it again. And they just don't have a chance to retaliate. But here is the proactive move. Sven Skaren runs out of his own ult duration. Just a bit of a scare tactic there. Baron is now live, and they're heading in the general direction as Fox pops his way back. Baron being started. Look at that damage that they've got already. There's really no reaction that you can do here if you're the Wolves. They've got to try to contest it, but they're too slow. They don't have any sort of damage to really stop this. Fox is zoning. He's going to find Airwalk. Tanky as he is, they're going to pick up the Baron. Fox a little bit low. Soren now dashing away as Freddy took him out of his comfort zone, and now the culling is on. They're just continuing to chase the Wolves down, see if they can get a pick here. Looks like they're gonna look for Unlimited Fates call. There is the Zhonya's Hourglass for Youngblood, switching the targets rapidly. Sven Skaren going down, Airwalk so low, so is Soren. Fox going in for Given, picking up Youngblood, picking up Unlimited. That's a double kill, looking for more. They lose Sven Skaren, but they find 2 kills, maybe more. Airwax hopping into the Krugs. Can he stay alive? They might finish him. No, the heal.
Oh, Forgiven is not done yet here, chasing 3 guys from the Copenhagen Wolves.
Oh.
Just gang up on him here. Oh,
Okay.
Backs away.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, that ulti from Youngblood was near perfect. There's only 4 guys with the cannon. He stayed alive as well with the Hourglass. And yet the Copenhagen Wolves just didn't have the damage and were too far behind, so they had to start running away once the rest of SK joined. Let's just see it again. So Baron has already been picked up. Copenhagen Wolves are way too slow to react. Forgiven jumps on to Airwax, trying to force him out. And obviously now 2 ultis being used by SK. Keep chasing up a lot of low guys from the Copenhagen Wolves, and then notice Youngblood flashing over the Raptor wall with his ulti. That's perfect what he's doing now. 4 guys from SK, but they just don't have the damage to finish off anyone. And Forgiven with the QSS, full HP, can then start cleaning up with the rest of SK.
Yeah, the fights have just been way too good for them, and Fox with a godlike kill, just like that. Great clockwork back to Dragon, boys.
Really, really good performance on this LeBlanc here. Again, it's the first time we see him play it.
And he's 7-0.
7-0. Been getting picks all game long. So, Airwax dead for another 20 seconds. 4th Dragon for SK. Baron of minions here. Time to open up this Copenhagen Wolves base.
Certainly looking like they want a piece of the bottom. Fox, half health Youngbuck, even though he misses the chains, forcing away. Whoa, not sure where that charm was going. And he's going to jump on to Unlimited, gets a Tibbers for his trouble. They take the turret. They're going to take the inhibitor. The Copenhagen Wolves just don't have any response to this. And SK, they look like they want to keep pushing.
Just keep looking for these kills here.
No reason not to. There's really, you can't get that close. They're going to start firing down the Nexus turrets here. One is about to go. Youngbuck incredibly low in this one. Freddy getting the Frozen Tomb. Soren incredibly low as well as he backs to his own fountain. This 4 dragons to 1. They're just going to wait for a few more minion reinforcements. A temporary ceasefire as SK Gaming look to be on the cusp of yet another win. Will they find a kill? Fox, how many can he pick up in this game? Svenskeren could be in some trouble, but Freddy has got his back. Youngbuck is going to go down. They're going to find, it looks like Unlimited, not quite Freddy with the clutch Zanya as they turn their attention to this last Nexus turret. 35, almost 36 minutes into this game. Down it goes. SK Gaming, a 7th win on the board. And they just cannot be stopped.
This was the first game where we really saw SK Gaming actually fall behind in the early game, where we had their one-on-one kills from Airworks onto Svensker, and we obviously had Forgiven dying in the lane as well. And Copenhagen was, with these standard lanes, a good early tactic. But then you just see the team adapt to it, start saying, okay, we're not going to go for the place anymore, we're just going to counter gank with our Rengar. Svensker was doing so well, despite dying early on, of finding these right counter gank moments. And then obviously again with Freddy destroying Youngbuck in that one-on-one.
Some uncertainty in their faces there, and I think you're right. They were definitely tested in that early stage. Of course, Forgiven was killed again. Is going to double his number of deaths so far in the LCS.
Not going to touch his KDA, however. Yeah. You divide by 1 anyway. But
the math is not necessarily my specialty, Deficio, but you know, you still got to be happy about that one. But I do agree. It's a little bit of a harder win that time around. They were able to take advantage, but you could see a few more weaknesses in their play this time.
So the thing is, do we really want to call their weakness when they fall behind early for the first time we see a team actually really try and punish them in a 2-on-2 lane and punish Svenskeren, who normally is the aggressive jungler, and then you adapt to it and you turn it around, and by 15 minutes you have 9 kills on the board. You're 5k gold ahead almost, and you're going to win the game because you're just looking so good.
Yeah. So honestly, they definitely turned it on.
Exactly.
In that mid-later game. So it just seems like if they do have a hole, they patch it, but you could see they were thinking about how they're going to deal with those little things going forward. They definitely got spotted a few times by the Wolves. I mean, kudos to them for really trying to put it to SK Gaming.
Yeah, again.
But you're right. I mean, it was just, you can't even ban them out. You can't ban the particular picks because you look at Fox, he comes up out of nowhere with this LeBlanc pick. He goes ridiculous on it, able to pick people off, and they're just able to keep snowballing and snowballing. I mean, what can you do to this SK Gaming squad? It just seems like no one has an answer.
Well, I mean, it's going to be very, very tough for me to try and explain what you should do against SK Gaming. Step 1 is you cannot afford to get outmatched in any lane at all. Because we saw again the Copenhagen Wolves put focus on the bottom lane and actually winning it. But then suddenly your 2 solo laners were now in trouble, especially again the top lane was so heavily in favor of Freddy. He took the tower one-on-one fairly early on. So if you want to beat SK Gaming by playing standard lanes, make sure every single player you have actually matches up in terms of skill with the rest of SK. Otherwise, that tactic is not going to work. We just saw it here. I like how Copenhagen was tried. It didn't pay off. We even saw them actually after the game, smiling a little bit, still talking, saying, hey, we gave it a shot. It didn't work for us. Next time, maybe we have a new tactic we're going to pull out.
Yeah, I think a big ups you got to give the Wolves in this situation because it was such a monumental task to try and take down SK Gaming. No one else has been able to do it. And in this situation, again, they played as well as they could have in the even lane matchup. They focused heavily on Forgiven. They were able to pick him off once. They tried a few more times. They focused on the counter jungle. They really kept Svenskeren down. And that's something that hardly anyone's been able to do in the laning phase. But the problem is, SK, once they got to that mid-game, Freddy, who was completely untouched, completely unnoticed, who had been pushing Youngbuck in all game, starts roaming down. And all of a sudden, 1, 2, 3, you start picking up kills. That triple kill for a Fox. Yep. And you just get so out of control so quickly. If you don't keep a tight lid on this team, they're going to pop out at you.
Exactly. You can't make a single mistake. If you do, they will punish you either through the lane, a counter gank, whatever it is. SK Gaming is looking like the best team in Europe by far. And in order for anyone to beat them, you got to really match them in every single like individual skill, player for player. You got to match them completely. And then you have a tactic ready to kind of try and punish SK again for the fairly greedy plays they do make. We saw Forgiven be very aggressive in the bottom lane. We know they like to walk through the jungle without any wards. I mean, there are some openings you can try and punish. But if you fall behind in the laning phase in 2 out of 3 lanes, that's never going to happen.
Yeah, definitely seems like no team's quite found an answer for them yet. How long can that win streak continue? We'll have to see. Now we're going to go ahead and send it back over to Shox for a closer look into that game.
Thank you very much, Pyra. And Enrated shimmied on over here after that victory. Congratulations, great game on Luna from the entire team. Talk me through the pick and ban phase because the Copenhagen Wolves had some good things up their sleeve coming in.
So we started with the pick and ban phase as we usually do. We kind of sorted the priorities we had, and we felt like there were a lot of picks open that were good for us. So we just tried to like make them pick whatever they want and still get advantage out of it, and it kind of worked for us, I feel. There were a lot of bans on top lane. We secured Lissandra pretty early on. I think that just worked for itself.
Yeah, I think the draft was pretty even up until the last pick. We saw you hover Leona, I imagined, for countering Annie in lane, and then you went back to the Lulu. I'll be honest, I'm not a Lulu fan, so I'll give you the chance to go for the Lulu. Why that over the Leona, for example, here?
There were several options here. Like, Leona wasn't the only one, but I felt like Leona is the most aggressive one, but also the hardest to punish in a way, because you have to make those aggressive plays in order to capitalize on the lane. So I felt like this game would be a lot about jungle pressure onto bot lane, so I rather fell back to a Lulu pick, which is more defensive, but still in the matchup has a lot of protective duties against Annie and kind of countered their engage in a way, which helped us as well. And since the Nidalee was ahead in early game, I think Lulu was in the end the better pick, because we could just hold bot lane and wave clear and do a lot more with it in transitioning into mid lane.
Yeah, what is your opinion purely in the 2v2 of the Annie Kalista? Because it seemed pretty strong, and in my opinion, it is by far stronger. But you guys actually, I was surprised that you kept it that close. I think on paper you technically should have lost harder. I don't know. What is your opinion on the lane?
I think on paper, just with the matchups, I feel like if you're confident in the matchup and you play champions you really like, you can basically win even, let's say, 40-60, 30-70 lanes. We pressured them early. We had a lot of advantage until the Nidalee gank came in, and that kind of threw us like a bit off, and they started to pressure us instead. The trades in early game were favorable. I maybe could have pressured a bit more, but I was afraid because Nidalee just got ahead and had a lot more pressure. I feel like if I played a bit more aggressive, we would have even won the game like a bit harder on bot lane. But I feel like we just went even, and if that one kill didn't happen, I think that we would have won the lane just simply by matchup.
And after that, actually maybe getting or going even, there was a quadra kill coming in for Fox, and we're actually going to pull that replay up on the screen because it looked like it could go the other way for a little bit if we get that up on the screen. And Ray, to talk us through the moves here.
So we knew they tried to be aggressive, and we were just waiting for the engage basically. We had Sven already in the back, and he was just waiting to counter engage there. So we come in, we try to find an opening, it didn't quite work. The TP came in. The opening came in the end as well because they kind of made a turn there. We got freeze, first of all, and after that Fox was already coming towards bot lane, making a really good roam. So we just cleaned up afterwards.
Yeah, definitely Fox has an impressive showing this game. It seems like before, I felt like Fox was part of SK, but in the shadows, you know? He was just like this tiny wheel turning in the giant machine that is SK Gaming. But this game, he was a bigger wheel, you know. He started actually getting into his comfort zone, going for a lot of plays. We see even here, he's cleaning up because he solo killed his lane opponent first, then came down a bot lane. We saw him do these fancy flash plays where he repositioned for the double chain. How good is Fox, and how much more is left in him confident-wise? Like, how much room does he have to grow on the stage?
I think we shouldn't talk about confidence because every mid laner should have just a certain amount of confidence
to
play it.
After a while, how much better does Fox is going to get?
I think he hasn't reached his skill cap at all. I think he has a lot of room to grow and a lot of experience to gain, and he's just slowly but surely gaining it throughout the matches. I feel like we have a lot more of him to see throughout the next weeks and months to come. I think that match by match he will show a stronger game, and if people underestimate him, things like that can happen.
Yeah.
Talking about taking it match by match. If you guys win tomorrow, you have the record of Alliance, 8 wins in a row. That was last season. And if next week you beat Fnatic in that matchup, you beat Fnatic's, or you even out Fnatic's record of 9 wins in a row, who can stop you guys?
Well, we don't know yet, but one game might come at some point. We're not really feeling the pressure just yet. We're not having that in our mind. I feel like everyone has it a bit like in the back of his mind, maybe, but that's like all. We don't go for records. We're here to play and we're here to win, and that's what we're doing. We're just trying to show our best performance, and we're just practicing to be on top, and that's just all we can do.
Yeah, you guys are reigning solo here in Europe. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Another win on the board for SK Gaming. Now, with the first half of this week's game's history, the numbers don't lie. With 10 kills, 3 assists, and a triple kill as LeBlanc, today's most valuable fantasy LCS player is SK Gaming's mid laner Fox with 31 points. It was Yellow Star for the longest in the day, but Fox, fantastic play here on LeBlanc.
Yeah, he definitely showed up, and it's as Rated said, you know, first few weeks, Fox played pretty passive, you know, just part of the team, but he's definitely showing up, especially with the LeBlanc pick. Every time I see LeBlanc pick so far, I was like, yeah, I don't know, man, that champion just doesn't have it anymore, and I've been proven wrong, because he definitely showed up. So he killed Ari, which is the tier 1 mid lane pick right now, and just calmly roamed down for a triple quadra kill. So yeah, definitely good showing from Fox.
Yeah, must feel good for his confidence as well. Before we sign off, let's update the standings. Still undefeated at the top of the tables is, of course, SK Gaming at 7-0. But Fnatic is right behind them at 6-1. Now, the Unicorns of Love have tied Elements for 3rd place. And toward the bottom of the table, Meteor Makers now find themselves alone in the number 10 spot. Elements tied with the Unicorns of Love in this one. And the rest of the table, business as usual, SK still at the top.
Yeah, I'm surprised by UOL. You know, a lot of people were saying, yeah, they couldn't come in. You know, these cheesy picks, the popping top lane, it's gonna run out of steam. They'll get figured out, but they've shown resilience. They've shown really good play, and I'm just happy to see them there. And then, yeah, I'm kind of disappointed in Elements. Kind of expected more. Definitely think if they get a culture or just change these like bad habits and put a little more like, I don't know how to say this. Just passion, you know, for Grinta. Yeah, that's the word, but I don't even know if
I read your mind, man.
Exactly. That's what I want to see, you know. I just want to see an aggressive elements rather than what's been happening the last few matches.
Right, we'll see what they can do tomorrow. Week 4 of the Spring Split continues tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central European Time, 9 a.m. Pacific as H2K take on Rocket. SK Gaming will face Giants as they look for their 8th straight win, and will end the day with MYM versus the Unicorns of Love. And we see there the Elements tomorrow up versus Gambit. Gambit with, well, another win on the board, so that might be a hard one for Elements.
Yeah, but I feel like Gambit was really, really sloppy, both in closing out the game as well as their item choices, their vision control. They didn't pick up the oracles early. They danced around that Baron for way too long. And Elements, you know, you have to snowball them into the ground if you want to beat them. You know, if you leave them a little bit of wiggle room, they'll eventually come back. You know, they have these players that can do that. And I don't think Gambit showed that they had what it takes to beat Elements. But, you know, I can be proven wrong.
Yep, we'll see tomorrow. That's all from us until then. From myself, Crepo, and the European LCS team, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you again tomorrow.
A must-win game for both teams. Gambit 1-5, Giants 2-4. So we'll need to see how this game plays out. Flash forward, Soul Shackles picks up 1. Now Nick looking to jump in. He's got some AoE on 3. Empress Divide's going to split Gambit away at GG. That was a flash into the knockup. Ryu gets caught again. Collateral damage thrown down from the backline. H2K with a stunning victory.
Holo.
I love it.
When I broken Nexus, I'm holo.
Okay, perfect.
Solar Flare catches Rain over. Mima's looking for a target. Forced to self-cast to stay alive. Frostbomb from Steelback is going to take Mima down.
Holo.
Love it.
They scatter away from Kickus, but they found Nuke around the side, and Power of Evil will be able to pick another. Kickus not quite going down yet. Looks like they're going to look for a limited fates call. There is the Zanya's Hourglass for Youngbug. Switching the targets rapidly. Sven Scarin going down. Airwalk still low. So is Storm Fox going in Forgiven. Picking up Youngbug. Picking up a limited. SK Gaming. They just cannot be stopped.